the warm sea breeze, light under Sagrada Familia's arches, sunset on Mount Tibidabo, 3 days to fall in love with Barcelona. We've crafted 3 perfect routes. No rush, no stress, pure enjoyment and the city's atmosphere. Now, take a walk with us and find out how to see it all and truly enjoy yourself. The route for the 3rd day starts at Park Güell. Today, it's a public park open to everyone. You can see most of it for free, but to get into the most interesting spots, the ones with the architectural masterpieces, you'll need to buy a ticket. And make sure to buy your ticket in advance, ideally a week or even 2 weeks ahead, so you can actually get inside. If you just show up from the street and try to enter the paid section of the park, you'll see a sign saying all tickets are sold out. The history of this park goes back more than 100 years, to the early 20th century, when the industrial magnate Güell decided to create a residential district for wealthy Barcelonians outside the city and invited the famous and fashionable architect Antoni Gaudí to design the place. It must be said that the project was a commercial failure. In the end, only 3 houses were built, one of which was actually sold to Güell's friend, a Barcelona lawyer, whose descendants still live in that house to this day. It's the only private residence within Park Güell. As for the other 2 houses, one of them was where Gaudí himself lived, and now it houses the Gaudí Museum, which you can visit. And in the 3rd house that was built, Güell himself lived. Now, that house is home to a municipal school, right here on the grounds of the park. The bench in Park Güell is listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest bench in the world, and it's also the longest Art Nouveau object in existence. They say that when Gaudí was designing this bench, he asked one of the workers to undress and sit along its length, so that the shape of the bench would follow the contours of the human body and be comfortable to sit on. At the entrance to the park, there are 2 gatekeepers' houses that look like gingerbread houses straight out of a fairy tale. Gaudí was truly inspired by the opera Hansel and Gretel, which was being performed in Barcelona at that time. And this is the salamander, a creation of Gaudí, one of the most famous symbols of both the park and all of Barcelona. In the city, you can find souvenirs featuring this very salamander in all the tourist shops. And this majestic hall with columns was actually designed as an ordinary market for the residential complex. Now there's nothing here, just tourists wandering around and enjoying this beautiful sight. This place is called the Hall of 100 Columns.
But in reality, there are 86 columns here, and that's not by accident. One hypothesis is that this is connected to a musical or astronomical system. But who knows?
The park looks very green now, with lots of trees, and it seems like they've always been here. But in fact, before construction began, this place was called Bald Mountain. It was a hill on the outskirts of Barcelona where absolutely nothing grew. A scorched hilltop. Later, all these trees you see now are specially brought in, planted, and carefully cultivated over a long time. You could easily spend a whole day or half a day in this park. But we have a lot of other interesting things planned for today. So we'll walk around here for an hour or 2 and then continue on our route. So, after a leisurely half-hour walk from Park Güell, we've arrived at the Sant Pau Hospital. A hospital has existed on this site since the very beginning of the 15th century. At that time, 6 medieval hospitals were merged to create one large facility that could serve the entire city of Barcelona. But as time went on, by the end of the 19th century, the old hospital was no longer sufficient for the rapidly growing city of Barcelona. And so a philanthropist, the well-known Barcelona banker Park Güell, sold his bank and decided to use the money to build a large, modern hospital that would meet all the demands of the time. To design the new hospital, they invited the fashionable architect Luis Montaner, the very same one who designed one of the houses in the Eixample district on Passeig de Gràcia. He was also the architect of the Palau de la Música Catalana, and he was the one who built the castle of the 3 dragons in Ciutadella Park. Naturally, it was done in the Art Nouveau style, and of course, with his love for details, both the design and construction of this hospital dragged on for a long time. They started at the beginning of the 20th century and only finished in 1930. Moreover, out of the planned 48 buildings for the hospital, they only managed to build 27 pavilions before the money ran out. And since then, the hospital has remained in this form with just 27 pavilions. Currently, some of the buildings in the hospital are still in use, while others house exhibitions and museums where you can see old medical equipment and get a glimpse of what the hospital wards looked like back in those days. After visiting the Sant Pau Hospital, we turn our backs to it, and right in front of us is our next destination, the Sagrada Familia. That way. We just walk down one street, straight ahead, so you definitely won't get lost. And here we are. We've reached the Sagrada Familia. This is the most famous building in the city. When I asked my friends what they associate with Barcelona, the first thing they mentioned was, of course, the Sagrada Familia. It's the most visited attraction in the whole country of Spain. It's among the top 10 most visited places in the entire world. This is a church you simply can't miss if you're in Barcelona. Construction of the church began in 1882 and is still ongoing. It's the longest running construction project of modern times. Right now, they're planning to finish construction in 2037. But I have a feeling that even by then, it still won't be done, because the official completion date keeps getting postponed again and again. The church is being built solely on donations, which is why it's taken so long. Of course, Gaudí didn't live to see the church completed. His work was continued by other architects, one after another, like a whole generation of architects. Unfortunately, not all of Gaudí's design drawings have survived. That's why the architects who followed, those who are finishing the church, each bring something of their own. And the church itself changes beyond recognition. If you walk from one facade to another, from the older part of the Sagrada Familia to the newer, more modern sections, you get the feeling that even the style of the church changes. Of course, you have to go inside. I would even say it's a must. But don't forget, there are no ticket offices near the Sagrada Familia. It's impossible to buy tickets when you arrive at the cathedral. You need to buy tickets in advance, well in advance, on the official website. If it's tourist season, you need to buy tickets at least a month before your visit. Outside of tourist season, you can get them a week or two in advance. The Sagrada Familia is the tallest Christian church in the world. Gaudí himself wanted the church to be truly tall, but not taller than Montjuic Mountain, the very mountain that rises above the center of Barcelona. In his view, a man-made creation, a church, a cathedral, should not surpass or be higher than God's creation, meaning Montjuic Mountain. That's why, even when modern architects are finishing the Sagrada Familia, they use precise modern methods to measure the height of Montjuic Mountain and make sure the Sagrada Familia is not taller than the mountain. So, we've just seen the Sagrada Familia, and now we're heading to the next stop, the Casa Vicens. Remember the route. We go out onto Mallorca Street, follow it to the avenue, to Avinguda Diagonal, and then we keep walking along Diagonal until we reach the intersection with Passeig de Gràcia. That's the part of Passeig de Gràcia that we didn't get to see yesterday. And along Passeig de Gràcia, we'll gradually make our way to Casa Vicens. I'll show you where to turn. So, we've walked along Mallorca Street and reached Avinguda Diagonal. Look, for reference, there's this wonderful monument here surrounded by cypress trees. And the street goes straight, while Avinguda Diagonal cuts right across this whole intersection. So, accordingly, we go this way and turn onto Diagonal, following Diagonal Avenue. Now we've reached the intersection with Passeig de Gràcia. You can use that spire behind me as a landmark. Well, actually, it'll be in front of us. Yes, the obelisk. Casa Cid is further down there. It's a building that's kind of a dealership for a Spanish car brand. I actually bought a car for myself there not too long ago. And from here, we turn right onto Passeig de Gràcia and take a look at the end of this street. There are some interesting, beautiful hotels. Next, we'll walk along Carrer de Gran de Gràcia all the way to Casa Vicens. And here, in fact, Passeig de Gràcia ends with this wonderful building, Casa Fuster. Now it's a 5-star hotel, but once upon a time it was built by the same architect Luis Domènech I Montaner, for a wealthy Barcelona industrialist who gave it to his wife as a gift. It was a gift of love, and to this day, they say that if you walk by here with your loved one, you should confess your love. But you have to do it sincerely, otherwise the house will sense if you're being fake. And we walk a little further along this street. The last Gràcia ended and smoothly grew into Gran de Gràcia Street. The further road leads to the Gràcia area, the former village of Gràcia, and in fact to our home, because we live in that area and often walk along this street. And so we reach Caroline Street.
How many minutes did it take us, roughly?
Well, we walked for about 15 minutes, I think. And we turned left right here. From here, we can already see the Casa Vicens. Now we're going to get a little closer to it. Casa Vicens is Gaudí's first major work. Just imagine, he started designing this house the very year he had just received his architect's diploma. But it was with this house, with this work, that a new direction in architecture began. Catalan modernism. In this house, you can feel that Gaudí is still searching for his style, searching for his own architectural language. For example, there are a lot of straight lines here, whereas later, Gaudí abandoned all straight lines and advocated for everything to be natural, since, as we know, there are hardly any straight lines in nature. Here, though, you can clearly feel the influence of the Eastern style that was fashionable in the second half of the 19th century in Barcelona, in Catalonia. This magnificent house was originally built for a prominent magnate, a successful factory owner, a very wealthy and influential man, Mr. Vicens, who owned several ceramic tile factories. And in many ways, this house served as an advertisement for Vicens's own products. For many years, this house belonged to the same family, but over the decades, the heirs gradually sold off pieces of the property. Now, the house is in the city. It used to be almost a country villa. There was a large plot of land, a cascading waterfall, outbuildings, and attics. All of that was gradually sold off in pieces and rebuilt. And now, practically only other houses remain on this street. Here is the small house we see today. And up until the last decade, this house was closed. People just lived there. You could visit, but only once a year they would organize such an opportunity for fans of Gaudí, modernism, and architecture. And once a year, you could come here. Later, the house was put up for sale, bought by a bank, renovated, spruced up a bit, and turned into a museum. And now you can come here every day, and tickets are sold quite freely. There's no need to buy them in advance. Gaudí drew his inspiration from nature, and he found nature everywhere. For example, on the plot where this house was built, there was an old palm tree growing. That palm tree had to be cut down in order to build the house. But he immortalized the leaves of that palm in the fence of the Casa Vicens. And by the way, this same fence, or rather, other parts of it, when the heirs were selling off parts of the house, it was taken away from here. And now you can see it in Park Güell. That same fence is there now. But now, after Casa Vicens, we have the most difficult transfer of the entire 3-day route ahead of us. If up until now we've managed to walk everywhere, then to get to Mount Tibidabo, which is our last stop on the 3rd day's route, well, you could theoretically walk there. But it would take a long time, be difficult, and you'd get tired. We'd get there by nightfall, so yes, it's definitely better to go there by transport. If your budget allows, you can just take a taxi and get to the very top of Tibidabo in 20 minutes. But if you want to save money or have an adventure with Barcelona's public transport, you can get there with transfers. Probably 2 transfers, including the funicular, using public transportation. So basically, the route here is first the train, then the funicular, then a bus. Overall, it's not difficult. The only thing is the 2 transfers. But if you want to save time, it's easier to just order a taxi straight from Casa Vicens up to Tibidabo. I know that many of you get really anxious when traveling on your own, without knowing the language, the country, the mentality, or the local laws. How do you figure out where to go, who to ask, and what to do when there are crowds everywhere, long lines, and no information? How do you make sure you don't miss the most interesting things? And how do you keep it all in your head? Travel is meant for relaxing and enjoying every minute to the fullest. And if you want to visit Barcelona, just message me and we'll organize a custom tour for you. where everything will be easy and magical. Just send me the word Barcelona in a private message using the link in the description. So, here we are on Mount Tibidabo. This is the highest mountain in Barcelona. It's higher than Montjuic, higher than Carmel, higher than any other elevation here in the city and the surrounding area. The oldest amusement park in Spain was built here, back in the 19th century, when no one else in the country was doing anything like this. And this park still exists today. It's still operating. Although some of the rides might seem a bit old-fashioned to you, there were long debates here on the mountain, probably throughout the entire 19th century, about what to build at the very top. They wanted to build a casino. There's an amusement park, so why not have a casino nearby? But another viewpoint won out, and in the end, they decided to build a church here, a church in the heart of the Lord, at the highest point in the city. Construction of the church began at the start of the 20th century and took almost 60 years. They only finished in 1960. And now you can go up to the top, and from there you'll see Barcelona in all its splendor. And of course, many people come to Tibidabo just to enjoy the views of Barcelona. You can catch the sunset here. It was right here that many scenes from the iconic Woody Allen film, Vicky Cristina Barcelona, took place. And the origin of the name Tibidabo is quite interesting. Tibidabo, translated from Latin, means I give to you. These were the very words the devil used to tempt Jesus Christ when he took him to the highest mountain in the gospel and said to him, I give you all this world, Tibidabo. And by analogy with that mountain, the Gospel Mountain, this highest point in Barcelona, is also called Tibidabo. I give to you. Here at Tibidabo, our perfect 3-day itinerary in Barcelona comes to an end. I hope you've been following along with us. I hope you'll try out this route yourself. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, be sure to write them below the video. And of course, my team and I can not only create any awesome itinerary for you anywhere in the world, but also organize a turnkey trip. Just write to us, tell us what you want, and all you'll have to do is enjoy every moment of your journey.